Okay, welcome. This is Jim Quick, founder of Quick Learning, and I am your memory coach for the Quick Recall Masterclass series. And I'm really excited to be with you again. And this session is going to be all about how to remember dates, how to remember time, how to remember your to-dos, how to remember that special person's birthday and your anniversary and the children's birthdays and all the things, because really when we're talking about time and scheduling, that's a lot of your productivity, how you manage your life and how you manage your day-to-day time. Because the worst thing that could happen sometimes, when we're talking about success and achievement and fulfillment, is to forget the things that are most important. Remembering things like a meeting, remember things that you need to do, all the things that you need to do. Forgetting, you don't want to forget things like an anniversary, a special occasion, a birthday. And so we're going to talk about dates and how to remember dates and even important dates in either time, like history, like much like if you have a student in your life that you want to be able to share these things with. And because this presentation is a little bit more like technical, it helps to make it a little bit more visual. So we are going to do it with slides in this session. And so please let me know, in the comments how you're doing with this session specifically, and then we'll go through more of it during the question and answer. And part of what we're going to do in this, what I like about this session, is we're going to do kind of a quick review, because here we are in week number 7, lesson number 7, and we're approaching now the second half of the program, not including the bonuses. So this program, as you know, this is a 12-week program, and so that we could really build on it. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review in this session since we're crossing the halfway mark, to really solidify some of the basics. All right, and I'm going to do it through slides so you can see everything that we've a lot of stuff that we've done to date. Pardon the pun when we're talking about dates in this session. And then obviously we also have some incredible bonuses that you're going to get also as well. So so I'm looking forward to doing this with you. And so throughout history, they've done a lot of other people have brought to light some of the things that you can do with your memory, including the famous Mark Twain. And this is an article on how to make history dates stick. And this was actually published, it was written in 1899, while Clemens was still living in Sweden, as you can see from the text here. And it appeared in Harper's Monthly Magazine in December in 1914, and it talked about different memory devices that he used. And he used a lot of things having to do with pictorials, using visuals and images in the place of notes when he delivered platform speeches. And we talked about this specifically on how to give a speech without notes, how to confidently memorize and remember a speech without having to using notes, but instead using pictorials. And so this is, our brains haven't changed a lot through time. As go back 100, 200, 300, 500 years, our brains are the same. Right now our brains are changing a little bit, and our wiring a little bit different because of technology now, but you still remember the same way. And so pictures that we're talking about, especially for speeches, giving presentations, he was convinced, it says here, that the same methods could also help children learn history. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to borrow on some of these principles. You don't have to go and read these articles, because they were actually written differently. But the principles in terms of the mnemonic devices, the mechanics, the skills, the techniques are a lot the same, because the principles are the same. So that's what I'm always looking for when I'm designing programs around learning, whether it's speed reading or focused concentration or accelerated learning, whether it's thinking, decision making, problem solving, anything having to do with a bigger, more better brain, if you will. We're always looking for core concepts. What's the commonalities? When someone's an outlier, if you will. We recommended reading the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. But somebody is off the curve. What is it that makes that person special, to kind of be able to get the rapid results that they're able to achieve in their life, and we bring it down to core principles. Okay, so the core principles, like what you see here from this article, which is not displayed here obviously, has to do with pictorials, right? Images, using memory devices to be able to memorize speeches and teach children how to be able to learn history. So that has everything to do. So that was there, written by Clemens. He actually also had a game, Mark Twain's memory builder game, and this is 1885, Mark Twain patented his Memory Builder, a game board aimed at developing memory for dates and facts. So dates are very important. Now, this system we could do even more enhanced because we're always standing on the shoulders of geniuses, right? Everything that we're talking about here, we're borrowing from smart individuals, and we're taking them and we're putting them together in a system that takes the best of the best to be able to apply it towards your everyday life. To remember names like we did. We're going to be memorizing formulas, memorizing languages is still coming up, memorizing misplaced things, memorizing your past. All these things are going to be coming up that we're going to be talking about, but we've already covered names and speeches and words, spelling, vocabulary, numbers, all these things. And specifically about numbers, I'm going to remind you and do a little bit of a review because when we're talking about dates, it's numerical, right? Dates are numerical. And so, measurements of time, if you will. So I'm going to review some of the number techniques that we did to kind of reinforce it. I'm going to use slides since we're halfway through the program right now. So let's go to it. Now, one of the things you could do to remember dates here, and I put all my notes here, so you could take a screen capture of this or obviously take notes if you like. And we talked about number rhymes. Remember we talked about, yes, you have a sun list, right? 1 is sun, 2 is sock, and 3 is what? Traffic light, good. And 4 is car, and 5 is glove, and 6 is maybe soda or beer, whatever you use for six pack or whatever you created. But we also said that you could also create number rhymes. Like 1 could be bun, and 2 could be shoe, and 3 could be tree, and 4 could be door, and 5 could be hive. Well, another mnemonic device for those people who are very auditory would help them remember dates, and I'm going to use history dates as an example, but you could use this for anything, is the rhyme. And you remember this back in school, right? The one we started here, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Mnemonic devices around verbal or auditory recall is stronger with some individuals. Some people really love rhyme. They take to lyrics of music very easily, and so that's how they prefer to learn. Remember we talked about different learning styles in the quick thinking program. We talk about visual. Some people like to learn things by looking at them and seeing them and picturing and imagining them. Other people like to that helps them, but they really like to learn things through auditory, more hearing something or discussing it with something or somebody, or sounding things out. And this is something you could find out when you're talking to friends and family. Find out what their learning style is. And finally, there's kinesthetic learning. Kinesthetic is more feelings, more kind of rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands into it, really doing it. They learn through maybe movements and such. But we're going to specifically here for this technique, the number rhyme is all auditory. So 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Now you know that. But here's other things you could do. Like we know the Civil War began in 1861. Some people, as a mnemonic device, will actually take something like, most people know that the Civil War was in the 1800s, so they'll remember something like 61 and they'll think 61 kind of rhymes, right? Rhymes, 61 sticky gun, and then they'll take that picture of a sticky gun and incorporate it in Civil War. You hear that? And notice what I'm saying. Do you hear what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is 61 sticky gun kind of sounds alike, but here's the key for these methods. And like many of them, even when it doesn't really work, it's still working better, because what it gets you to do is to put your unique perception and attention, your observation, like we talk about in Mom, to the fact that you need to remember. All right. So one of the things we talk about, the 3 keys for better memory, is MOM, M-O-M, right? The M is, first M stands for motivation, and so we created this motivation metric on a scale of 0 to 10. How much do you want to remember something? And then if it's a 4, how do you get it to a full 5 or 6 or 7? And feeling that, because we know emotion tied to information becomes a long-term memory. And so the other part of MOM, the O, stands for observation. And so observation is, how do you get your distinct attention onto something? So you're not just looking at it, you're really seeing it. You're not just hearing it, but you're really listening for it. And so here, what we're talking about, by using the the second M in mom, the last letter is mechanics. One of the mechanic skills, the technique, is actually hones your observation. So by saying 61 sticky gun, even though it doesn't exactly sound alike, you're focusing on the thing that you need to remember, right, in a unique way. And so that by doing that and then making it richer and using your imagination is going to help you to be able to do that. And again, going through this program, I'm assuming that you went through it in order so that you have some of this number background. If you haven't, you're going to want to definitely listen to this section and watch a session on numbers. So here you have the Boston Tea Party in 1773. 73 for me sounds like, sounds like heavenly tea, 73. And you could come up with something, because I think I remember, seventh heaven, seven heaven, heaven tea. And I'm just thinking, wow, Boston Tea Party, heavenly tea, or whatever helps you to remember it. That's something that you could picture, right? And we know through studies of the brain that you remember things better that you could see. And so another one is in terms of rhyming, and I'm just, on April 28th, Mary and I have a date. Something that just rhymes like that. It just puts it in your mind, and it's something that you could use to be able to put your unique attention on something that's brand new. Now, going through the alphanumeric code, I'm putting this here because you know this already. So this is a review, but I'm in a lot of the dates on how to remember things like time or something in the future. We have a nice little bonus for you in this session with a good friend of mine, Scott Flansburgh, who's the Guinness Book of World Records fastest human calculator, and he's a human calendar also. And you might have seen him on Oprah, or on our Superhero U kind of a media site where he's spoken at our conferences, and he'll actually be able to multiply multiple digit numbers against multiple digit numbers faster in his mind repetitively, faster than anyone in the audience could do on a calculator. And he demonstrates that. So I'm going to show you as a bonus for this how he's able to do what he calls the human calendar and be able to go through and actually, you give him any date through history or a date in the future, and he'll tell you exactly what day of the month it actually falls on, which could absolutely be useful to know, like, what day of the week July 4th, of next year falls on, or or obviously Thanksgiving's specifically on a Thursday, but specifically like a specific date, and be able to help you and remind you what that is. And plus, it's a wonderful brain building exercise just going through it. And so he's going to teach you how to meld a little memory with a little bit of mental math to be able to do things with dates. So that's just as an extra bonus because Scott just came here to our quick studios here, and he offered to record that, and so we're going to make that available for all of you. Anyway, going through the alphanumeric code. This alphanumeric, we're talking about alpha like letters, and numeric obviously numbers, so it's kind of what we did. Here is a system that's over 300 years old, and what has been assembled here is you have 10 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and each one of them has a corresponding sound, and they lumped certain sounds together. And so we're going to go through this. You know this well if you went through our number system, but I'm doing this as a review with you. So you could either close your eyes if it's safe to do so, if you're not operating heavy machinery, or you're not driving, obviously, but let's go through 1 through 0. So number 1 is ta, da, and the, right? The mnemonic device was the T looks like 1, the D looks like a 1 with a smiley face, T and the H, 1, ones, a bunch of ones. The 2 is the N sound, because of the 2 on its side is the N. 3 is the what, say it out loud. M sound, good, and we're reviewing. Number 4, because we're going to go deep into numbers now. The 4, F-O-U-R, R sound, good. 5, using your 5 fingers on your left hand. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put your thumb to the right, and it looks like a 5. The L, the five fingers looks like an L, and also it's the L sound, right? And then we know that the L in Roman numerals is also the 50, right? 6 is the soft sounds, J, J, sh, ch. 7 is the hard sounds, K, K, G, good. 8 is the what sound, F and V, good. 9, B and P, and 0, S, and Z, good. So that's the alphanumeric code, and we also said there are some rules here. That vowels in this system have no value. The letters W, H, and Y have no value. And silent letters have no value because it's a phonetic code. It's a phonetic code, which means it's based on sounds. So if you can't hear the letters, they have no value. And finally, double letters have single value, right? Meaning that if you have a word that has like bookkeeper, right, and you have two K's there, it only counts as one K. So it only counts as 1 7 in there. All right, so that's the alphanumeric code. So let's begin to use this. And these are the examples I'm going to give you. And you can create your own also with this. Silence of the Lambs, great film. It was the best film Oscar in 1991. So using the dates for this, it would say, and it's in the 1900s, 91 could be using the alphanumeric code. 9-1 is like bat, right? Or it could be put, or it could be pit, right? And so what you're doing is you're making an image of the number and you're associating it back to the knowledge that you want to remember. If you want to remember Silence of the Lambs, have those lambs, eating and gnawing on a bat, and that will remind you of the date. Now remember, the purpose of these mechanics, MOM, the purpose of the mechanics is to be a means to an end. All right, it's a means to an end, meaning you want to know that the Silence of the Lambs, that this is what a date that you want to remember, because we're talking about dates here. If you wanted to know that it was a date that to remember, then what you want to do is turn that into a picture, 91, and so that's, it could be bat as an example, and then associate that to what you want to remember, right? So everything we're talking about here, we're always talking about easy as pie. Pie. Your memory is easy as pie. The P stands for place, the I stands for imagine, and the E stands for entwine. Again, your memory is easy as pie. The P stands for a place to put the information, the I is you imagine the information, and then you E entwine the two together. So for example, Silence of the Lambs is the place, right? You make a picture of that. And then you need to remember 91, that it was the best film in 91. So turn that into a picture. So the second step is imagine. I is imagine. Imagine 91 is a picture. You can't easily do it with a number because it's abstract. Numbers are very difficult for a lot of people to memorize because they're abstract. Because what's the difference between a 91 and 92 and 93? But in 91, using the alphanumeric code, bat, right? Or th, bath. So maybe Silence of the Lambs, you're bathing the lambs. And then again, these are memory exercises. There are 4 parts to this training. We have the tools, right? This is the technique, the T. But the other T is the toughness. And part of the toughness comes through practice. If you want greater mental toughness, this is all about building greater brains, even bigger brains, if you will. So to enable this thing called neuroplasticity, new connections. So we're making you smarter and faster, more connections. It's kind of like you're wiring yourself to be more mentally acute and making these memories stronger. And so what enables that, besides oxygen, having oxygen in your body and such like that, is also new learnings. And that's what we're doing. We're creating new learnings. And so putting these two things together helps you to do that. Now, if we're going back to Columbus as an example, 1492, then you could turn that into a picture. 1492. If you're using the alphanumeric code, you always, all 4-digit numbers you could come up with, one picture. So for me, I used the, turban. It's because the 1 is a t, the 4 is a r, the 9 is a b, and the 2 is a n. Turban, right? So just associate the turban to Columbus, and you'll always remember it. And remember, it's a means to an end. By practicing this, you'll eventually know. And now 1492. That's why I'm using it as an example, all right? Because you're familiar with it already. But if you need to do a dozen dates, it'd be a lot more difficult to repetitively do that 50 times for every single one of them. Here you have turban, Columbus. You entwine the two, right? Columbus is the place. The 92, imagine. The I in pi is imagine. So you're making it into a turban, and then entwine the two together using action, exaggeration, emotion, all the things we talked about in previous videos and in previous live coaching audios that helps make it more enriched. where you're taking the ordinary and you're making it extraordinary. You're taking the ordinary and you're making it extraordinary. Remember the precept here is that most of the things that you need to remember are ordinary. A date is ordinary, right? A time, a place, a name, a phone number. Those are ordinary things. A fact, a figure, a formula, ordinary things. But the human beings have this gift. They have this superpower called their imagination. You have a superpower called your imagination. And by utilizing your imagination more with regards to your memory, it'll help dramatically boost your recall. Plus, you're having fun in the process, right? And so that's part of it also as well. So Columbus, 1492. And once you know the fact it's 1492, or Silence of the Lambs was the Oscar Academy Award winning film, best film in 1991. Once you know that, the picture of the bat or the bath or the putt or whatever you were using for your picture, that disappears because you have the true knowledge. You have the true knowledge. But you need something to get over what I call the 6-second syndrome. You have 6 seconds to do something with the information before it's gone, in your working or short-term memory. Right, so this gets you to focus on the 2 bits of information you need to remember. Because remember, all learning is just connecting 2 things. Let me say it again. All learning is connecting 2 different things. So Silence of the Lambs, the film, 1991 is a date, right? Columbus, 1492. That you're always connecting 2 things. You're turning them both into pictures and you're entwining the pictures together. Beethoven was born in 1770. For me, I just look at it. Somebody say, this is imagine going back to school, or let's say, and we're talking about dates specifically. Let's say you need to do that for something that you're studying. Let's say it has to do with legal precedent or anything that has to do with dates. And we're talking about music specifically. Musical artists. Let's talk or composers and such. Beethoven, 1770. When I see 1770, I could turn it into 1 word, or it could turn into 2 words, or you could turn it into 4 words, and you just put the pictures together. 17 is duh, guh, dog. 70, cuh, suh, kiss. But it could be a duck, case also, right? It could be dog, kiss. And then, so Beethoven kissing the dog, right, when he's born. So Beethoven is born, and you could picture that. Beethoven's being born, and then he just kisses the dog, 1770. And remember, this is a memory device, because once you do it once or twice, you're going to remember it next time it comes up. Because the good news is, let's say you need to recall that information. Most people, if they have to recall information that they forgot, they have nowhere to go. Let me say it again. A lot of times when people forget something, they have nowhere to go to find it, especially when it comes to information. At least with this method, because they did it through rote or repetition. Right? Beethoven born 1770, Beethoven born 1770, Beethoven born 1770, and it's through repetition. The challenge with it is not only is it monotonous and it's boring, which we don't learn in those conditions, and it's time consuming, right? And so besides that though, let's say it's time to be able to present on this or to take this test or whatever you need to do, to whatever date you need to recall, right? If you forget it, you have nowhere to go. But at least with this, Beethoven, born 1770, you could picture your picture for Beethoven, whatever that happens to be, and you could just imagine Beethoven, and when you picture that, automatically, if you linked it and entwined it, dog kisses. So you have it, 1770, you have somewhere to go, right? Beethoven, he passed away in 1827. 1827, when I see 1827, I just see the word diving, you know, the 1 is a duh, the 8 is a va, right? V8, you remember? Va, dive, or it could be dive, neck, the 27 is neck. For me, I put it together. I saw duh, va, na, ga, diving, and just stick in any vowels, right? So that would be an example for specifically remember dates, because remember the session is all about memorizing specifically dates, right? And dates, we could go and chunk that into time also, right? Many of this could be equated to different time, especially if you're on a 24-hour clock. 1827 can be 627, and so that's something you could also memorize also as well. Now, if you want to expound on dates here, we're talking about dates that certain United States that they became officially part of the United States. Each of these states, as an example, Kentucky, 1792. By the way, what's the capital of Kentucky? Do you pronounce it Louisville or Louisville? Is it Louisville or Louisville? It's Frankfurt, right? That's the old joke, Frankfurt. And we're gonna talk about how, we talked a little bit about how to memorize those kind of facts. But Kentucky, if you want to remember it's 1792, for me I see 1792 and it just looks like, duck bone. You're eating, and then so remember, easy as pie. You picture the place, you imagine the fact, you put them the two together, entwine it, PIE, place, imagine, entwine. Picture Kentucky. What do you think of when you think of Kentucky? Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Fried Chicken. So you're eating your chicken, and what's inside? There's a duck bone, 1792. Mississippi, Mississippi, right? By the way, what's the capital? Jackson, right? And so you have, Mississippi. If you want to remember that, just I used to see Michael Jackson moonwalking on the Mississippi River, and that's the remember the facts. But if you want to remember 1817, how do you remember that? 1817. What could that be? You could either do it as one or two. So picture Mississippi. I just think of a river, right? And 18 is like dive, right? Dive, and we know that 17 is dog. So imagine a dog jumping in the Mississippi River, diving into the Mississippi River, and then you have it. You have the fact. So when you have to come back out with it, you picture the Mississippi River. What was going on? I see Michael Jackson there. I see a dog diving. What's the date? 1817, right? Wisconsin. Okay, so when I say Wisconsin, what do you think of? Some people think of cheese. 1848. So that could be something else, right? Da, va, ra, fa. So that could be what? Da, va, ra, fa. So that's diving off of a roof, maybe? You can do that if you want to make it really simple. 18 is diving still, but this time diving from a roof into the cheese. Perfect. And you have all the information right there. Arizona, 1912. 1912. What do you picture? What do you picture? For 1912, you could picture what? Arizona, I think of, what do you think of? Desert, you think of a cactus, you think of Arizona iced tea, whatever you picture for that. 19 is like a tub, right? Tub. 12 for me is tin, like maybe a tub of tinfoil, and you're pouring the Arizona iced tea inside of it. Imagine that, tin, tip, tin, right? So you can come up with all kinds of different things. Whatever works for you, right? So that would be something for date specifically, And now, just to make this a little bit easier, when we're talking about things you need to do and things like your to-do list, and 'cause I want to make this even easier for you to be able to remember this and remember it really quickly for you. Things that you need to be able to do. So part of like what this session is not only just things like dates, it's things like the things that you need to do every single day. For me personally, just to not to go, you know, even deeper into memory, but how I kind of organize things for me is when the night before or the night or the morning of, if you will, when we're talking about productivity and performance, I'm thinking about three things. I'm thinking about the three things I need to do personally that would make today a win, and I would think about the three things I need to do professionally that would make it a win. And that's what I do personally, because some people have asked in terms of, how I organize my time and the kind of things that I do before breakfast, that kind of stuff, in terms of maximizing, all the hours of your week, if you will, the 168 hours a week that we all have and we all share together. So for part of what I do in terms of management and life management, I just think of here are the three things, because everyone today could have a to-do list of 30, 40, 50, 300 different things, and yes, that those are things, some of those things could definitely be important, but not all of them are important. So what I focus on is three things that I could do business-wise or career-wise, things for my work, and three things I could do personally. And they don't have to be all huge, but they're important, right? For personally, it could be something as easy as, eating a salad or going for a walk, or doing some yoga or doing some deep breathing, or doing memory exercises like what we're doing right now. three things professionally could be making sure you review this contract, making sure you do this one phone call. That would be a big needle mover, for you, if you will. Designing something, brand new. And so three things personally, three things professionally. But let's say you have those things. How do you remember the things you need to do for that day? Let's say you're going about your day and you don't have stored externally. And I like to store things internally personally because it trains me to remember the things that I need to do. Because remember, your memory is like a muscle and it grows stronger with use, but it's use it or lose it. We talk about digital dimension, how we're constantly outsourcing our brains and our memory to technology, and it's growing flabby muscles, right? So we're building that toughness. And so remember the body locations. The body locations. Let's do it together. You have 10 parts on your body that we delineated as locations during the location method. The first one, number one, was your top. And touch your top right now, the top of your head. Two is your nose. Good. Three is your mouth. Good. Don't look at the screen now. Four is your ear. Five is your what? Larynx, right? Your voice box. Number six is your shoulders, touch your shoulders. Seven is your clavicle, another word for like your collarbone. Eight is your fingers. Nine is your belly, touch your belly. And 0 or 10 is your seat, your bottom, your rear end, if you will. So those are 10 different places. So if you need to remember your to-do list or things that you have on your schedule specifically, what I do, let's say you're in the shower, right, and you can't write something down, or you're driving and you cannot write something down. And so what you could do is just remember something. Put something on the top of your head, put something on your nose, put something on your mouth, put something in your ear, then put something on your larynx. And that's what I do all the time. Almost every single day I'm using these techniques. And people get better and better and better at it, faster and faster and faster. And it's great memory exercise. So it's not taking any extra time. You're just using your normal day, then things taking time that you normally spend forgetting something to actually remembering something, right? And so let's say something you need to do is you need to go call Mary. Going back to Mary, you need to call Mary. And so take a picture of Mary and put Mary on the top of your head, right? And you have that right there, and make it funny and exaggerated and make it comical and make it, you're like, that's very childish or childlike. Of course it is. That's why you remember it. It is very childlike, and that's why you remember it, because children are incredibly fast learners and they remember things, right? And so, but Mary on the top of your head. Let's say the next thing you need to do was go to the post office. You need to go to the post office for some reason. So imagine yourself mailing a letter and putting it right up your nose. And you're in the shower because you can't write this stuff down. So you're putting the letter right up into your nose, and it makes you smile, and that's why you remember it. And you think like, why do I have to do these exercises? It takes energy to do it, but it gives you the muscle. Just like going to the gym builds the muscle, and you're grateful for doing it afterwards. You have that good stretch, you have that good pump, if you will, and knowing that when you rest, things are getting even stronger. Let's say the next thing you need to do was to be able to do your budget, right? Do some budgeting. So take your calculator and put it in your mouth, right? And that would remind you you're biting down on a calculator, and it reminds you have to do an expense report or your budgeting or whatever that you need to do specifically for that. Let's say another thing you need to do is you need to get the car cleaned. You need to get the car cleaned. So put the car, and you're taking the wax out of your ear and putting it on the car. Wax out of the ear, putting it on the car. And so that helps you to be able to remember that. Next thing you have to do is your significant other says, hey, you need to go and you get avocados, pick up some avocados on the way back. And you're like, okay, avocados or guacamole, if you will, all over your larynx. It's all over your throat. Right? Imagine putting avocado all over there and see and feel it, and it's there. All right. And let's say the last thing that you need to do, the very last thing you need to do was you needed to send an email, respond to emails. So emails, and put it right on your shoulder, right? So you see two computers there, and you're typing emails on both of your shoulders. Okay, and so that simple act of doing it, you go back and you look at the top of your head. It's like, oh, I need to contact Mary, and then you look at your nose. Oh, I need to be able to mail. I need to mail that letter. And you go through your different parts of your body, and you remember things, right? Mouth was biting onto an adding machine. I need to do my budget, my expenses. Oh, my ear, I was using the wax for the car. I needed to clean the car. And you go through every single thing, and it helps you to remember those things. All right, so that's practice. That's practice. The other reason why we use these body locations, though, is it's also the code for the alphanumeric system, right? The alphanumeric code, if you will. This is like a mnemonic device to help you to remember the alphanumeric code, right? So if you need to remember 1 is ta, 2 is na, 3 is ma, 4 is ra, just remember this new body location that you have. Number 1 is your top, ta, starts with ta. 2 is your nose, na. 3 is your mouth, ma. 4 is your ear. Remember, E and the A have no value because they're vowels. So 4 is the ra. 5 is the la, larynx. 6 is shoulder, sha. 7 is clavicle, ka. 8 is fingers, fa. 9 is belly, ba. 0 is seat, sa. So that's your code. That's your remembrance. All right. So your body locations can help you to store your to-do list, because this session again is all about your to-dos and dates and times and such. And it also serves a secondary purpose, is help you to lock in your alphanumeric code, right? The sounds that we're assigning to these various digits, right? Remember, the system is a few hundred years old, used by Einstein and used by all these amazing geniuses, and you also as well, because you are a memory superhero. This is one of your memory superpowers. All right, let's do some more examples with this. And I'm putting this right in front of you so you can see it right in front of you. And so the Titanic, the sinking, that tragedy happened in 1912. 1912, so 19, 1, 9, ta, ba, tub, or tab, 1, 2, tin. All right, so that you have tub, tin, Titanic, right? Remember, easy as pie. You have the place, which is on the deck of the Titanic, and in 1912, if you need to remember the 19, some people would know what happened in the 1900s, but if you need to remember it, see the Titanic sinking in the tub, made of tin. And then you have all of it. And then after you do it, you're like, oh, now I know, well, I can remember Titanic in 1912. It helps because you were picturing it. And now once you have the picture, the memory, 1912, the picture disappears. And it might happen after just once or twice, which is the beauty of this. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 or 5 times also. Cuban Missile Crisis was in 1962. 1962. For me, I'm looking at 62, and I'm just thinking 6, ja, 2, na, join. It could be chain. So just imagine that. Connect the chain to the missile, right? And so you have it, and to remind you 1962. And 62, chain. You associate chain, make an image to the missiles. Good. The Berlin Wall collapsed, 89. 89. And some people say 8 is fa, 9 is ba, fab. That's fabulous, right? And so maybe that was a fabulous, so you remember the word fabulous, and you see fab, written on the wall, and that helps you to remember it. And so that would help you to be able to remember that date specifically. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. 80 for me is face. Fa, sa, face. So imagine it erupting and lava coming towards your face. You'll always remember that. You will always, always, always remember that. So Mount St. Helens, you see it erupting and it's coming towards your face. If you need to remember Helen, think of something that sounds like it, or something, a person you know. If you know someone named Helen, imagine it's going towards her face, right? So that's an example of turning numbers into pictures that you easily remember specifically for dates. Now, these are your body locations that we went through, just as a repeat. Top, nose, mouth, ear, your larynx, your shoulders, your clavicle, your fingers, your belly, and your seat, going forwards and backwards. And you could go through it, and you still remember that your to-do list also, right? You could also use your body list also to remember things like facts, right? Facts. If you need to memorize the 10 points to a speech like we went through before, you can put those 10 points in these 10 places, all right? But primarily what we're using this for specifically is for your to-dos and also for your sounds like specific, the alphanumeric code. Now, people ask how to remember things like birthdays, if you want to remember birthdays. And some people are really good at it, some people aren't. But remember, the first thing is you need to turn into a picture. So just like what we did in the last coaching call, when we're talking about the coaching call, in a previous coaching call on the audio. Someone asked, well, how do you remember license plates, and how do you remember A and B and C and D? And we came up with pictures. Either an animal, like A could be an ape, B could be a bumblebee, C could be a chimp, or so on. Or they could be colors, or they could be fruits. A could be apple, B could be banana, C could be a cherry. So we had pictures for each of those. So it also helps to have pictures of the month. And we find that this is a wonderful memory technique for people who want to be able to memorize dates, specifically dates. We covered already like using specific years, but if you want to be able to remember specific months and add the actual days, which we could chunk down the days in a little bit, just come up with an image for every single month. And there's only 12 months on our calendar, so 12 months, 12 images. So here's the ones that I use. You can use anything that works for you, because remember, it's not right or wrong, it's just good, better, best. There's no right or wrong, it's just good, better, and best, specifically what works for you. Because whatever works for you is the best, all right? Because what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa, all right? So, for example, I'm looking for sound-alike or reminders, right? Remember, the master principle, one of the master principles of this, of the quick recall, is tip, turn into picture. Tip, turn into picture. And that's what you want to be able to do. So turn into picture. January, turn into picture. When I think of January, what do you think of? Some people could think of a ball dropping, for what they do in New York Times Square in New York City. Other people, nothing comes to mind when you think of January. Maybe they think of a snowman, that now would represent January. Now, if you can't think of a specific image, take a sound like. Remember, if you're playing Pictionary, it's either something sounds like what you need to remember, or something reminds you. And so if it sounds like January, I just use a jacket, because I want to wear a jacket during January, and it's also has a lot of the same letters also. So I think of January, jacket. February, I just think of a heart, because of Valentine's Day. February 14th, I think of a heart. Whenever I throw a heart into something, I know it's February. All right, so that's my image for February. For March, you can use the Ides of March. You could use I use a marching band. Very simple for me. Marching band. Some people use different sports too, so they could use different sports. Like when they know that let's say football or baseball season, some sort tennis or what have you. If there's something that's seasonal, they would take that. For me, I hear March, I think of a marching band. So whenever I would need to remember, a birthday, and somebody's birthday specifically in March, I'll just picture a marching band. I'll picture them at the head of a marching band. And you're like, oh, that takes up too much space. No, it actually makes space. Let me say again, it doesn't take up space. It actually makes space, because you're growing connections, right? It's your muscles, and the more connections you make, the stronger you're going to get, the more you can hold. It's just like bench pressing something. The more you do, the more you can do, right? So March is a marching band. April, think of April Fools. Some people could think of like a practical joke, or a fool like a clown, if you will. For me, I use showers, April showers, and I use May brings May flowers. So very original. April showers, I use showers, because for the phrase April showers brings May flowers. And so for May, I use flowers. Very simple. Whenever I need to be able to memorize someone's birthday is in May, I just picture them covered in flowers. Right? Now, if I want to go in a specific day, it's a specific day, the numerical day, date of their birthday, I just turn that into a picture. Very easy, And now this is an alternative for people using the alphanumeric code, because let's say the person's birthday is on let's say it's the 9th, and your picture for 9 is a cat, for 9 lives. And I just picture somebody, someone's birthday, they say their birthday is May 9th, and if they don't remember, it's not normally good with dates, all I do is picture them covered in flowers and cats, and I'm done. I'm absolutely done, and I smile and I laugh inside, and I just remember it. And after I think about it a couple times, I'll remember that their birthday is May 9th, right? Because for the sun list, you came up with 1 through 30 already, 1 through 30. So if you don't want to use the alphanumeric code, try this on. Now, if you wanted to remember, by the way, May 9th, right? So May you're right, January is the 1st, February is the 2nd, March is the 3rd, April is the 4th, May is the 5th. If you want to remember May 9th, you could just remember 5 9, right? Because May is the fifth month of the year. 9, 5, 9, lap. Right? So you could picture a lap, and that could be your picture. And so you could do either one. And so my goal as your coach is to give you options. Not so many options that you can't make a decision on it, but 2 or 3 different things for each superpower. All right, so May flowers. And again, you can use whatever you want to use for May. For June, you can think of many things for June. Some people think of a June bug. Some people think of the beach. So, for me, June looks like dune. So I'm thinking about dune, like the sand dunes. And big hills and mountains full of sand, but dunes. Or dune, like the movie, if you will. So I'm thinking someone's birthday or anniversary, whatever it is they're talking about, they say June, I think Dune, and I cover them in sand. I already know it's June. I don't have to think about it after that, and I'll remember it. Especially if you can't write something down. Like later on, here's a great technique. you could, this is absolutely fine to write stuff down, but in the moment, if you can't write it down, this is a method to capture it, right? In order to be fair, in terms of what this can and can't do. I use this all the time. We have students use these all the time. And if you don't want to use it long term, use it short term. Use it to capture the information. Someone gives you a phone number. Use the alphanumeric code to be able to memorize it in the moment. And then after they leave, just write it down or put it in your phone afterwards. But remember, it's not just what you know. Yes, I'm going to teach you everything about to be able to memorize things. And so it is part of what you know. And you want to know this. People ask questions like, well, why do I need to remember this if I can just look it up? If you didn't know anything, you wouldn't be able to have a conversation with somebody, right? So explicitly, we're all clear that it helps to be able to have knowledge and history and references to things. Because if you like you took 50% of what you know now and made it disappear, would you be better off? No, right? And so we know, like imagine if you lost half your memories, you'd be in trouble, right? But if you doubled your memory in terms of what you could store, you would be that twice as ahead, right? So you want to be able to remember things. So maybe the technique for names, or so it's what you know, but it's also who you know. So you want to remember these people, but it's also who remembers you, who knows you, right? So it's what you know, but also who you know, and then who knows you also. And so people know you because you're going to be known for your memory. Imagine that. Imagine people start knowing you for your memory. You start being that woman or that man at work who just remembers things. And what does that say? It means you're paying attention, right? It means you're smart. It means you're an expert of your field. It means that you're going to get promoted faster than other people, that you're an achiever, that you care about things. And so that's what I'm talking about here. So maybe that this is a means to an end. Yes, I think it's the most amazing technique to be able to store things long term. But at the very least, if you just want it as a short term technique, then do that. Someone gives you a name, someone gives you a number, someone gives you a date, a birth date, or a name. Use these techniques just to capture temporarily, and then write it down. Then put it in your phone. Put that phone number, put it in your calendar, do whatever you need to do afterwards, but store the information right away. All right, so that way you don't lose it and you can overcome the 6-second syndrome. Okay, so me saying that, what do you use after that? What do you use for July? All right, if I was to say, what do you use for July? I say July, what do you picture? And I know we have people from 120 plus countries that are going through this masterclass program. What do you picture for July? Are there national holidays, for the month of July? You think about summer specifically. Some people, that's when they start surfing or snorkeling or doing outside activities. Some people think of July 4th if you're here in the United States. So they think of fireworks, whatever it is for you. Let's do August. What do you think of August? August, what happens in August? What holidays? What reminds you of August? Vacation. Some people also will do sound like August. For me, it looks like a gust, a gust of wind, and that could be your 8th month. The 9th month is September. What happens in September? Are there holidays in September? Labor Day. So you picture labor, right? What happens in September? Take something and picture. Sounds like or reminds you. What about October? October. What happens in October? A lot of people, they'll use a pumpkin. They'll use it because they love pumpkin pie. They'll use pictures of children dressed up in costumes for Halloween, or maybe a jack-o'-lantern. That could be October. What about November? What do you picture What do you imagine when I say November? Someone tells you their birthday is November 13th. What do you picture? All right, November could be a turkey, right, for Thanksgiving. And 13, maybe you're using a picture for 13, like Apollo 13. And so your picture for 13 is a spaceship, and you need to remember November, and it's a turkey going up in a spaceship. Or maybe your picture for 13 is a cat, or because you're not using it for like a black cat for unlucky. Maybe it's a black cat. Maybe it's a witch for 13. And so whatever you picture that and associate it specifically to whatever your picture is for November. For me, I use Thanksgiving. And then finally, December. What do you picture? What's your month image for December? What do you picture for December? Maybe it's a holiday, right? So it could be a dreidel, it could be a Christmas tree, whatever you use. That could be your picture for December, whatever you prefer. If it's December, maybe it's snow, something from the holidays. So whatever it is for you, picture that. And then when someone says, "Oh, I'm getting married in December," on what day? And that's perfect. You have your ice skating rink because maybe that's your picture for December. And let's say they're getting married on the 7th. And what's your picture for 7? Some people think of a rainbow. Great, rainbow going over the ice skating rink. And then right at the bottom of the rainbow, the two people are getting married, and there's your image. People say like, oh, then later on, a week later, oh, when's that wedding? You picture them, where are they getting married? At the bottom of the rainbow on the ice skating rink. Ice skating rink is December. Rainbow is number 7, December 7th, and then you have it, and then you have the date, right? You have the date. So that's wonderful. So that's June, and so after June, you have August. I use fireworks. Sorry, July you have fireworks. August, August. September, I use leaves. October, I use pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern, a carved out pumpkin. November is turkey for me for Thanksgiving. December is Christmas tree. So those are your month image. Month image. Good, good. So you're becoming like a real memory expert here, unlocking these superpowers. So these are dates. Good. Now, like a little bit more about this surprise. All right, so this is a bonus that we're gifting you, and this is a training by my friend Scott Flansburgh, and this video is not going to play right now, but it's going to be on this page. And if you like more information and more videos from Scott, let me know, because Scott has a great program on mental math, also mental math, that we filmed with him. He did 4 or 5 hours on stage, and we created this called Quick Math program online. And so Scott is the Guinness Book of World Records fastest human calculator. And so here on this page, when you watch this video with Scott, he's going to show you how to memorize some things, like specific numbers. But once you memorize those numbers, it's going to allow you to determine specific days of the week, for any date. So people ask you what happened on, they ask you specifically what day of the week was your birthday. You'd be able to tell them. You could ask them what their birthday was and what year. You could tell them what day of the week they were born on. And so if you need to go into the future on specific dates, like we talked about, October 31st as Halloween, or December 25th, as Christmas, or July 4th, if you will, for 4th of July, what day of the week is, you'd be able to do that in your mind, as rapidly as you'd be able to need to. And that helps with specifically for dates, okay, Now, as we wrap this up, I want to give you this quote from Henry Kissinger. There cannot be a crisis next week. My schedule is already full. There cannot be a crisis next week. My schedule is already full. So here's what you're going to do right now. Memory superpower, all about remembering dates. What I want you to do now is do a little bit of research. I want you to find out, let's do a little bit with years, and let's do a little bit with months, and a little bit with days. All right, so we'll do days, months, and years. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through, and you're going to find some kind of facts. And these are very, very easy to find online. But I want you to find something that's relevant to you. Right, because this program, we have people, different ages and different backgrounds and different careers, and pulling some of the facts, from general knowledge, from going back in school and such. But pick some facts, and then specifically dates, and practice turning those days, those months, those days, those years into pictures that you can easily remember. All right, so if you need to be able to go through, and let's say you need to be able to memorize a specific day, let's say it's somebody's birthday, and they say it's, okay, my birthday is on 7/20, July 20th. And so you picture 7 is ka, 2 is na, 0 is sa, and then you have cones or cans, right? Or you don't do that, and instead, let's say for 7/20, July 20th, you want to use the picture method, and instead you want to take the July and picture is maybe fireworks, and 20, let's say your image for 20, you could use either the alphanumeric code or you could use your picture from the sun list. Let's say that 20 is glasses for 20/20 vision. That's your picture for 20. Some people have a fox for 20th century fox. Some people use cigarettes. Whatever you use that reminds you of 20. And so let's say it's glasses, and then you need to remember 7, which is July. So you have your fireworks, which is July, and connected to glasses. Imagine fireworks hitting your glasses, and then you remember, and just specifically on that person. So if it's that person's birthday, imagine the glasses are on them, and you're taking fireworks, lighting them, hits the glasses, and you remember them. And you're like, that's a lot of work. It's a lot more work to explain it than it actually is to do it. Let me say it again. It takes far more effort and time to explain it, to actually just take a split second and do it. But if you don't do it, you won't remember it. If you don't do it, you don't know it. All right, so you want to be able to do it, right? When you could do it, then you understand it. Okay, so that's a level of mastery. So that's where the coach in me is saying, I'm going to challenge you, though, and I'm going to hold you to a high enough standard for this because you could do it. All right, but you have to do the effort. And so the homework for this week, and then we'll get to live coaching, is to take dates, again, month, day, and also the year, and turn them into pictures specifically. Then I want you to practice with your to-do list, all right, with your to-do list. And we'll go through more of this in the coaching call, but I want you to practice to-do lists, using your body and the things that you need to do after you could write down your to-do list if you like, but then when you go through it and say, okay, these are my 3 personal things, and these are my 3 professional things that I need to do today, and just put those 6 things on your body, on your top, on your nose, on your mouth, on your ear, on your larynx, and on your shoulders. That's 1 through 6. If you want to do 10 of them, go through 10 of them. But remember, that body location, that list specifically, was a mnemonic aid. It's kind of a meta memory technique to be able to memorize the alphanumeric code. All right, so practice the alphanumeric code and rehearse it. It takes about 21 to 30 days to make something a habit. Practice the alphanumeric code for 21 to 30 days. Remember, has a little bit more fixed cost. That's why we took our time in it, and we're doing a couple sessions on it. But once you have it, it's like having a Rosetta Stone, a converter, if you will, to turn anything into a picture, numbers into a picture. And again, if they could use it to be able to memorize pi 3.14159 so on to to the 100 or 200 or 10,000th and digit and above, then you could use it to be able to memorize a date. You could use it to memorize what time you have to attend that meeting. You could use it to be able to memorize a specific fact or formula around things, or a priority in terms of when you need to do something. And notice also that we stack this. If you want to go through and continue with the dates of, let's say we were talking about the United States, of when each state became part of the United States, notice that when we did it, we also could add in to it other information. And that's important. It's a way of stacking your memory. So not only did we say, it was, let's say, Kentucky 1792. I don't even remember. I remember, obviously, but I don't even remember. Focus on the duck bone that's in the KFC, because once you know the number, you have the date, you have it in your long-term memory. But if you wanted to add Frankfurt as the capital, you put Frankfurters in that. So notice you could do that. You could also do that with people. Okay, you could also do that with people. So when you meet someone for the first time, yes, you could turn their name and turn it into a picture and put that picture on the person. Right, the person is the place, the I is the imagined name, and the E is the entwined. Right, again, you're looking at somebody, easy as pie. You take their nose as the place. You imagine, which is the I in pi, their name into a picture, and then E, you entwine the imagined picture to the place. And so, yes, you can meet someone named John, and they could have a nice nose, and you can see yourself putting whatever you use for John. Let's say it's John Hancock. It's a signature on their nose. You could do that. But if John also tells you that his birthday falls on, let's say it's February 21st, right? 21st. You could go through On top of John, you could put your picture of a heart for February right there also as well. Right on, let's say you want to put it on a specific area for the birthday every single time. You put a heart there. That's when you know their birthday. Let's say you use their elbow, the right elbow. Whenever you see the right elbow, that's where you put their birthday. So you put a heart there so you know it's February, right? And let's say you need to know it's 21st. What's your picture for 21? For me, it's a deck of cards, like blackjack. And you see yourself throwing cards and throwing it at the heart on his elbow, 21. And then you'll remember it. After rehearsing a couple times, it's fun. It's actually a better way of remembering than just going through the numbers. And so, but if you wanted to do instead, you wanted to do, memorize it's February 21, that's his birthday. And then instead, let's say you want to use the alphanumeric code. Well, February is the second month of the year, right? And then let's say it's 21. So you have 2, 2, and then 1. 2, 2, 1. And you turn that into a picture. And you could break that down into 3 pictures, right? It could be 2, 2, and then a 1 together if you like to do that. So whatever works best for you is what you should use. Again, whatever works best for you is what you want to be able to use. Okay, so that's the method. That's what you want to be able to practice. And so what I'd like you to do now is if you have any questions about this session, put it down below and we'll go through it in the coaching and the Q&A call. And just remember, if your life is worth living, it's worth remembering. And then the surest way to immortality, according to Bruce Lee, is first living a life worth remembering. And that starts by remembering the moments in your life, the things that you're doing. And remember, just not the things you're doing, but also the people that you're being, right? The person that you're being. So it's kind of cheesy, but it's true. And just like most cliches, is that we're not human doings, we're human beings. So remember who you are. You are a superhero. And what I'm defining as superhero is somebody who is discovering, developing their strengths, and they're using these strengths to be able to pass it on and serve another person. Even just one person makes you a hero in my book. So thanks again for watching this video. Put your questions down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the coaching call and the Q&A. And I also look forward to seeing you in the next session. It's going to get better and better. Thanks for doing this. Bye now.